The Envoys had a crazy conversation with Ryan Jacobson the other day, the general manager of Marvel Strike Force. Let's go right into the information. The first topic we discussed was the Danger Room. Now, there's a lot of different ideas out there in the community. Some people really love this game mode, and some people don't, just because some people don't like rogue-like systems. Some people want the game mode to appear more often. Some people want it to be less often. So this is a good opportunity for you to reflect. What do you like about the game mode? Do you enjoy it? What changes would you like to see? Mr. Ryan Jacobson, in his opinion, he kind of really wants to go toward that longer Danger Room, right? So maybe, the one that takes a week or so, but you could eat it all in one sitting if you want to. If you don't, then it's there for you to still work on later. Like, I'm really a fan of both the styles, right? Sometimes we have those long versions. Sometimes we have those short ones that seem to be more thematic. And I like how things kind of bounce back and forth. That way, different styles of player can have the game mode that they like. And I think a nice compromise about that, a hybrid of that, is what's happening right now with the Sinister Six Danger Room, right? We have all those Sinister Six characters. You can mix and match. You can come up with some great combos. Things like that I think are very, very enjoyable. A point that came up repeatedly in our discussion is the fact that the community can consume content much faster than they can produce it, right? They put something out, let's say, again, a Danger Room, and there's people that are done with that in an hour or two, and perhaps it took them a week to make it. So sometimes we hear about, game modes and things like that feeling repetitive or feeling lazy. They're struggling, right, to figure out how they should go with things. Do we want more quality in our content, or do we want more quantity? Because the community can just chew it up, right? As soon as it's developed. So now they want to kind of hear from us. Which would you prefer? Do you want more stuff, or do you want it to be more quality? Keeping in mind, we're going to be able to eat it much faster than they can put it together. The next question had to do with Null shards. If someone hasn't maxed them out yet, how are they going to go about getting that character? Well, Scopely really wants individuals to engage in that boss fight, right? They want to do that fight with Null for you to get those Null shards. So what that would mean, again, is a person would have to engage with that content. We know, though, that Sentry is going to be the next Battleworld boss. So, right, we're just warning the community ahead of time. This is not something to get upset about. That initially what probably will happen is there will be a Null Battleworld, and then you could select, obviously, the Sentry Battleworld, the new Battleworld, and that's obviously what you want to do. So you would have to go back for people that didn't have Null in order to get those shards. Again, that's just because that's how the technology is set up right now. Obviously, you are not expected to do that. They want to make it so it's more of a single player experience, kind of like when Old Man Logan or the Horseman, right? Any of those legendary characters that you don't have, that you have the opportunity to engage with that content on a single player basis. That's coming. That way you won't have to go backwards as a alliance. Point number 3 is concerning Cosmic Crucible. They are trying to improve the game mode, right? It's a flagship mode at this point, so they want it to do good. But the time it takes to iterate on it, to test things out, to squash bugs, and then implement that, right? We've already consumed, as it were, the game mode for that time. We already know what the best counters are and things like that. Again, people are upset about the U32, right? They don't want that tournament, that interseason tournament, to infect the rankings. And since they are not able to get that under control at this moment, there simply will be no more U32 tournaments until they fix it. So that particular portion of the game mode is on hold. Something that was mentioned, something that they want to do, is they want to bring in leagues to Cosmic Crucible and Alliance War. What that basically is going to do is, at smaller levels, people that are newer players, they will have fewer rooms because obviously they have fewer teams. And then way at the top, if that's what an individual wants to do, at the upper levels, they will have more rooms because obviously we have more characters, and it gives people an opportunity that really want to go that way to use more of their roster, right? There's a lot of characters in this game that we're not using, so the leagues will give people an opportunity to use more of the characters, use more of the roster. This is not something that is on the roadmap. It is not something that will be coming anytime soon. It is something they're kicking around as a concept that they want to implement in some point in some time. We'll come back to the point about Overpower later, but we want you to understand, at least concerning the purple ISO, the way it's going to come out is just like everything else, right? It'll start out with events, then there will be offers, and then at some time in the future, it will start to show up in the shops. There was a question asked about Gear Tier 20 becoming more available. So again, they're kicking that around, trying to figure out what they want to do there. What it seems like they would like is for a game mode to kind of serve as the lane for a certain thing, kind of like how it was back in the day, right? So perhaps it was arena or war, and that's where you get your primary source of the material. In this case, we're talking about Gear Tier 20. They also know that characters are the chase, right? People love going after characters, so they would also like to put a character in that lane. So again, if we're talking about Cosmic Crucible, and let's say that's where the place you were going to get the majority of your Gear Tier 20, there would also be a chase character that you would be going after, and of course that character would be dominant in that game mode. So it just gives us more reason to play that stuff if that's the way, or if those are things that we like. The reason why they came to this is that the season currency, right? So the antimatter store, where you get those things, right? How you acquire the season currency like the antimatter doesn't seem to change the way people play the game. They were trying to get people to engage with multiple aspects of the game a little bit more. Again, this is just me talking. I'm speculating a bit on what I heard, and it didn't really change that. People that logged into the game 3 times a week, they'd continue to just log into the game 3 times a week. People that log into the game every day obviously continue to log into the game every day. So that didn't really change. So then they just said, hey, let's just go ahead and meet the players where they are, right? If this is the way people are playing the game, let's just go ahead and meet them where they are and reward them for chasing the game modes that they like to chase. And so that brought us full circle right back around to Overpower. And this is what's good about these meetings. You get to understand the insight. You get to understand why decisions are being made. So they're not going ahead at this time with the next level of Overpower because the same thing, right? It did not change the way people are playing the game and the way they intended. For example, spenders didn't really flesh out more of their roster, right? Why? Because there's no place to use those characters. So if there's nowhere to use the characters, there's no point in spending more to take advantage of the Overpower. So until they have a place to do that, right, there's no really reason to go further with that process. Again, this is just me speculating on some of the things that I heard. This is just my opinion. And so then obviously when it comes to us at the lower tracks, the same thing is true, that we don't really have an incentive to widen out our roster, right? The less you spend, the less you're going to be fleshing out that roster. So the effect that they desire simply isn't there. So they're putting it on hold. The next time we might see it is going to be with the next increase in our account, which is going to be account level. They'll revisit it then. A question was asked about, could there be new flash events or new challenges? And again, the answer was no, because again, it takes time to build these things and we consume them a lot faster than they can build them. So this portion of the game becomes obsolete relatively quickly. They're looking into some solutions, but just making new events probably is not something we're going to see. Someone brought up an excellent question about what will be the actual release method for Annihilus. How will we be able to unlock him? And right, the answer is actually pretty interesting. They're still debating. They don't really have it dialed in just yet, and that's fine, right? So we think about the methods that were available. Should it be a Saga type unlock? So should it be something like Professor X or Apocalypse, right? Both of those are Sagas. They both function a little bit different, right? So is there a hybrid version of those two that you think people would like to see? Or will it be a Dark Dimension style unlock? So something that goes back like to the Super Scroll and whatnot. The difference between those two is Dark Dimensions are generally a lot harder. They're a lot more difficult. The teams that you need to select, you're selecting more for sustain and longevity for the mode, right? It's definitely more difficult So which would you like, right? That's one of those things that maybe they might put out to the community. Which would you like to see? Usually the dark dimensions are more popular. They can definitely be more punishing, but they seem to be what people like. I'm curious to hear, if you had a choice between the two, which would you prefer? Big news that's probably already out there is that Blue Marvel is going to be a epic character, right? And that's in contrast with Odin, who is a mythic character. Now, Blue Marvel's release method will be similar to Odin. They want people to know that it's something that they want people to be able to do. The content probably isn't going to be overwhelmingly punishing. You're going to have to earn them, but it won't be as difficult as Odin, because Odin obviously is a higher caliber of character. So that means that Blue Marvel, he's going to be cool, he's going to be awesome, but he is a epic character and not a mythic character. And as they lean more into tags like that, they want to make sure that we understand that their character's kit and abilities will be reflected in those designations, right? So those things mean something. Legendary characters, epic characters, mythic characters, there's a hierarchy there to their abilities. So that's something we'll see reflected when the kit comes out. In addition, it looks like they're going to be going back to the 2 Dark Dimension style characters next year. It seems to be something that people enjoy, so we'll be going back to that chase, it appears. That's at least what's on the table for right now, next year. Next question that came up is very, very interesting. The Scopely team was asked, are they happy with the seasonal unlocks? Are they happy with the legendary characters coming into the game the way they are right now? And generally the consensus was yes. Okay, yes. Something that they noticed is that although people were able to get yellow stars, right? So the majority of people got the maximum amount of yellow stars that their account would allow. There was a surprising number of people that did not get even 1 red star on their legendary character, right? So this is my Quasar here. Obviously he's as high as I can get him for the moment, right? But there's a lot of people that didn't even get 1 red star on the character. So they're wondering about why that is, right? Did people not understand that when the Scourge event came, that was related to the content, that would be a way that you could increase the power of the character, right? The people that, again, that unlocked him didn't seem to go further. So there's some disconnect there. So that's why when it came down to the Blastar Scourge, there were yellow stars that were embedded right into the Scourge. Okay, there were yellow stars that they gave us right off the bat. They're trying to help people understand that these two things are related. They're going to review this information, and then when the next legendary comes out, they'll again refine it further, make changes as needed, because they want people to grab hold of these characters, right? Nothing wrong with that. Another interesting point that surfaced during this discussion, right? That most people seem to really enjoy this game mode, right? They enjoy how these characters are coming out. The people that engage with the Scourges, especially the Blastar one, seem to be enjoying it. However, there are individuals within the spender group that don't like it. Now, why is that? Well, again, it's because they don't have anything to do, right? Does that make sense? If they've already spent on the characters, they don't really have an advantage, right? And as soon as they chew through their content, it's over with. So it's not crying, it's not complaining, it's not entitlement. It's just the fact that, again, we need to be mindful that individuals at all levels need to be engaged in the game. And the spender community is finding that they don't have anything to do. Another interesting question that was raised was concerning the Secret Warriors and Infestation. Did they do what Scopely wanted them to do? And the answer to that question was no. They do want to experiment with this more. Now, this is just me speculating. I think what they mean by that, because they said they want to experiment with it more, is that people didn't really engage with the characters. They didn't really power them up, right? And that makes sense, right? This is an Alliance 4 defense team. But what if it was used in a way to enhance the value of other characters, like iconic characters that maybe we're not using anymore? So say Spider-Man, Iron Man, right? What if somehow they just got their own intense reworks? Would you power those characters up in that case? It would expand the roster, which is something they're looking to do. You would have more characters that you can use in different game modes. What are your thoughts on that? If the Avengers were brought up into the modern game, right? They were just all reworked and just their stats were just all modernized and brought up into the modern game. Some of the original X-Men, if they did that, would you be interested in that? Again, please, this is something they're talking about, so please comment below so we can get that information to them as well. Is Annihilus going to be game mode specific, right? Will he have tags for, again, a specific game mode? Is he meant to be a Crucible character, a War character, or something like that? And they basically said they want him to be plug and play, right? So a lot of, kind of like Professor X, right? You want him to be plug and play. Him and the team that he's going to be with, they want that team to be very strong. But they said they don't want it to be so strong that it's the only team that you need. So they're trying to find a balance in that area. When asked about Battleworld 2, when is that coming? They said real soon. So that concludes the information that I have, right? There might be some other individuals out there that have different information. Player Voice has some information. So make sure you go check out the Player Voice Discord. They got information out there. And I can try to clarify things in the comments. You can ask questions, ask for clarification there. Again, there are some things we cannot talk about. There's some stuff that they told us that we cannot share at this time. Some of it they want to share themselves. So we'll be looking forward to some announcements coming from them. Might be some announcements coming from specific envoys, right? They like to give out some exclusives here and there. So we'll be anticipating that as well. So again, hopefully enjoying Marvel Strike Force. If you have any questions, put them here, put them in the main Marvel Strike Force Discord, put them on the Player Voice Discord. Scopely has been doing a wonderful job communicating, so let's keep that going. And if you haven't seen this video right here, please check it out. It's legit.